Welcome to the Hard Rock session. Did you guys see our little presentation? That's not our screen. That looks bad. What, B? What would it be? G? How many of these do I have? G?
There you go.
How many of you guys saw our session? Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to show you a couple more. Okay, thanks. No, go ahead. I got time. That's in my budget. We haven't been to any sessions yet. It's been very busy. Is this what the PowerPoint slide looks like in all the sessions? Okay. So I'm going to show you what our slide looks like. And this is our title slide. Thanks. Thank you. I'm Scott Stanfield. I'm the CEO of Vertigo. To the left of me is Mike Hanley. He's my engineering director. Let's wait for that tile to come in. There's Will Allen right here. And to the right of me is Mike Lemmy, creative director from Duncan Shannon. And the four of us are going to be talking to you today about our solution. She is not here. But we thought it balanced out the image. You know, this is a show about design as well. So what I'd like to do first, since a lot of what this presentation is about and what we did is about, is I want Liam to turn the lights on. I'm going to take a picture of you guys. And then on stage, while these guys are talking, I'm going to try to stitch it together. It turns out, because deep zoom really shines when you have really large, high megapixel images. The only way to do them on a budget, really, is to have a tripod. Actually, I got a picture of this. Let me show you what this looks like. Let's see. Now, remember, we set this up. This, by the way, this is not best practices, because this is what you're looking at right now. So we have a panoramic head from Really Right Stuff. It's a special, this is just one dimension. This is just X. So I can do a classic pano, which actually makes sense because I don't want these lights to show up in the scene. But the kind of rig that we use, there's more equipment that also let me pan it in Y, in the Y-axis. And so if you remember that Bo Diddley guitar that we zoomed in on, this is the rig we had. And when we first started the project, we wanted very large images to play with, and there aren't any. You can't just go download a 400 megabyte picture from the web. You can't. I think you might be able to buy some of them. You basically have to make your own. So we did use a scanner. We have a Hard Rock Treasures book, so we did a high-resolution TIFF, and it actually looked quite good, but at some point you start to see the resolution of the paper. So that gave me an excuse to buy $800 worth of gear from these guys. It's a company down in San Luis Obispo, my alma mater, and they keep two machine shops busy making some of the best photography equipment in the world. The reason why it's important is because when you take these really large pictures, you want a rig that's not going to move or shake. It's really high precision, laser etched. They have special grease on there that minimizes dampening. Because when you take a picture with an SLR, you got the single lens reflex, the little mirror pops up and it shakes the image. And when you're trying to get the crispest, sharpest images you want, that you can get, you really have to have a quiet image. But for you guys, I don't think you want me to take a really sharp image. If you feel like the way I do, this is too early. So let me do, I messed up all this. So usually what you do, this shouldn't take too long, you center, get the bubble, and now we throw this on. I'm going to take 3 pictures, and this won't look too great because there's not a ton of light. So usually what you do, you get this thing down. Oh, you know, this will be interesting because it's not, I'm shooting down. Lutz, this is going to look weird. That's fine. We'll just give it a shot. Okay, so everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Now here's the trick. It's about a 2-second exposure, so you can't move. You guys could, okay? Okay, ready. Hold on, I'll start. Let me lock this in.
Let's see them.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on. Flash wasn't on. No, I'm kidding. No, I have to, let me tweak the, okay, ready? Okay, it's a 2-second exposure, so seriously, 1, 2.
Bring it.
Oh, you guys moved. It's fine. Okay, now don't move. Okay, so you are my stitching point. You don't move right there. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, Chris, you're my stitching point. Lutz. And then Paul.
Tom, you're okay too?
Pops, don't move.
Chris, Tom.
And the dude's way over there. God, you're way over there, man. Okay, that's it. So I'll see if we can do this on stage.
Photoshop in some more people.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, this is a 1,000-room capacity. That's why I had you stand up so we didn't have empty seats. All right, so let me pull this little memory chip out. So we're going to tell you guys about how we did this from 3 perspectives. Technically, we'll talk about some of the deep zoom technology. We'll talk about some of the business reasons why Hard Rock did this. And finally, or in between, we have a lot of good design. Talk about the design of this because the user experience is somewhat unusual and unique with this technology. Did I take that thing out? Oh, gosh.
I think you took out the battery.
Did I take the battery out? Oh, boy. I did. I did take the battery out.
Yeah, you did.
There, yeah. Okay, leave that there. That looks like it's going to fall over. All right, we'll start pulling this off in just a minute. So let me go back to the main slide, which is really wacky. I swear, these guys, they did this at 2 o'clock in the morning last night, littering these things all over the slide. Is this it? Yeah, okay, check. So we had this butcher paper, and we thought we'd just sketch out what our presentation should look like. And I thought instead of taking this and doing it up in PowerPoint, we'd just take photos and throw it in Deep Zoom. And it worked pretty well. So I'm going to demo the app really quickly because I know you guys were just stunned and probably missed a lot of content. And plus, I'll show you a few of the things I couldn't show. Firefox?
Yeah.
Okay. This is running locally. How many of you have actually hit the site? The real one. Okay. So we purposely said it didn't go. It actually went live as soon as I walked off stage. But to try to make the spread of the traffic go out because we were concerned about what the bandwidth was going to be like, we actually rolled it out. Well, we didn't want everybody to know, and of course, it's on Twitter in about 30 seconds. So I think everyone at the conference hit it. It turns out the conference was the reason why the performance was so poor from here. Our bandwidth never peaked. In fact, Mike's got a slide later on that. So let's see, what can I show you? One of the things I did, unfortunately, you will not see this image. And check out, the experience is actually quite different when I zoom in on the Sinatra picture. It's not quite as cool. Well, actually, I guess it's pretty cool. So this is where we started, right? And then we pulled way back. This image is not online right now. So you'll find Frank Sinatra, but you won't find the thing on his button yet. We haven't had time to put that up there. I also showed you this Beatles cover, which is right here next to the bus. But I definitely ignored the bottom half of this. This is the Beatles with decapitated babies and slabs of raw meat.
Fake babies.
Yeah, they're fake babies. Don't be too shocked. And that's the reason why this thing is so rare, because it never hit the stores. They looked at this like, we can't sell this. Can you imagine if this had been the Beatles, if they released this album? I don't think we'd be listening to them today. So that's pretty freaky. What's some other cool stuff? Who do we have naked? Okay, I got to be really careful. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's not here.
I think it's in the Beatles.
Oh, it's in the Beatles? Let's see. You have John Lennon and Yoko Ono naked, which I won't zoom all the way in on.
Go show all. Show all.
Oh, they're not in the filter.
It's right there.
White one.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Ready? I'll go way in so you don't see too much.
Just a little peep show.
Yeah. And there's a frontal shot over here, but we'll ignore that one. I think we have Janis Joplin naked. I do like, where's that cool leather jacket? So, I mean,
the hair.
Yeah. Oh, is the Green Day guitar in here? We'd have to pixelate that one because it's full of profanity, but it's really good. It's just, I tell you guys, it was a lot of fun doing this. I mean, this is the original Hard Rock logo that they were working on. Really old one. And this right here, check this out. This is a hand-painted poster. There's only 2 of these. Look at the band is Rory Storm and his Hurricane. You probably haven't heard of them, but look who the opening act was. The Beatles. The drummer for Rory Storm. Anybody know? Ringo Starr. That guy gets a T-shirt. Do I have any extra T-shirts? I hope.
I think
Mike, take yours
Just
off.
gave it away. Come up afterwards, Mr. Rory Storm. So anyway, that's the demo, and you'll get pretty good performance online. It might not be quite this snappy because this is running locally, but it pretty much is the same. The collection online is actually a bit smaller because we haven't got approval yet to roll out every piece. But let me switch back to our quote-unquote slides, which are here. So I just showed you, we demoed it again, and Mike is now going to give you kind of the hello world. If you want to start with a couple pictures of your own, this is the code that you need. Now, there's already been some stuff on the blogs about, well, I'll wait till you get to the mouse wheel.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm going to show you guys, let me just flip out here. I'll get out of PowerPoint. So they just released, I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it yet, but they released a tool called Deep Zoom Composer. And I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And what this tool does is it basically gives you the ability to create the deep zoom collections that we put up on the web. And this, again, kind of came from the research, the Sea Dragon research technology that Microsoft worked on a few years ago. And so what I'm going to do is just create a new project. I'll go with the defaults here. And I'm going to add a couple images. This takes a little while, so I'm not going to add a ton. Just add a few here. We'll just add 3. And so what this is doing is actually pulling in the images. These are kind of standard SLR, probably 10 or 11 megapixel images. It's pulling them into this tool that lets us lay them out in a way where you can have them horizontally or vertically aligned, things like that. So it's a very simple process, 3 steps. First, we import them. Then we do a compose, which is really the way we lay them out. So you just throw them on here. And you can kind of see that it gives you a way to size them if you wanted to make this one a little bit bigger. Move it over there, move this one down. Say I wanted to do, one of the tricks you saw in that demo that Scott just showed was we had images inside of images, right? Or kind of like what we're doing with our fake PowerPoint. That's a technology called sparse images. And so one of the things you can do is, let me make this bigger. And then say I wanted to kind of zoom in and I wanted to put this image inside of that. You just put it there. So you can kind of see it's pretty simple layout, and then I'll go ahead and just export it. I'll give it a name, test. So relatively straightforward tool. While this is going, I'm just going to open up the folder. You can kind of see the output. It's calling some command line tools to generate the necessary XML and image files and all the glue that Deep Zoom needs so it can work. And it'll just take a few seconds here. Actually, while that's going, I'm going to open up Visual Studio. So this is using Visual Studio 2008 plus the Silverlight 2.0 SDK that they released. So the suite of tools that Scott Guthrie announced during his keynote. We installed all that on this box. And one of the things you get is a nice project template here. Let me open that up. Maybe. What? Here we go. No, we're good. We're good. So you can see you get a Silverlight application. You can also get a class library, things like that. Pretty standard. Go ahead. You get a little bit different dialogue than you typically would in a new project. This is just simply because you need a website or an HTML page to park the content in. I'm just going to do a web application. And then I'm going to just change the underscore to a dot. My personal preference. And while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and just make one little change here. I want to actually switch this over to use IS7. So I'm just going to say, instead of using the built-in web server, I'm just going to create a virtual directory called Silverlight Application 3. Create a directory. Okay, cool. Hopefully this thing should be done by now. It is. So in here, I have an SDI file which I could open up and look at. But what I really care about is this layout. This layout is the thumbs or the pyramid of the image chopped up. So all the different tiles, when we talk about zooming in, they're all broken out into this layer. So you can see for those 3 images I put on, it put 15 levels of images. And if you kind of look at the top level, there's nothing. It's just a kind of a blank. And then you go all the way down to say, go to 6. You can see a little bit more. And then if we go all the way down, you'll see there should be a bunch of files in here. And this is kind of those images carved up into a nice, clean way to serve them up. And so what I'm going to do, actually, is go to my web project. I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm just going to call it Collection. And then I'm actually just going to drag all of this into the collection. So all I'm doing is basically deploying. I'm just copying files into my web application here. And then I'm going to, let me show you where this file is. As soon as that guy comes back. Whoops. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the page.xaml. This is in my Silverlight application. And you can see it just laid out a grid. This is the new grid control in Silverlight 2.0. It could be a canvas. When we started the project, it was originally, it only supported canvases, but it now supports grid. And what I'm going to do is just throw in a multi-scale image. I'm going to give it a name. I'll just call it deep zoom image. And then I'm going to give it a source. And this is the website I just created, which was localhost/Silverlight application 3/collection, and I think it was info.bin. I think it's info. Let me double check. Yep. So that's all you need, and I just need to actually close it. So that's it. That is a deep zoom image. So if I run this, if I've done everything correctly, and sure, we'll go ahead and enable debugging. There's our image. And what's great about this, you can see the two images kind of faded in. And the problem, though, is I can't do anything. I can't use the keyboard. I can't zoom in. I can't click anywhere. This is what you get. This is the images that are in there. Those are the high-res images, and the tiles are all there. You just can't get to them. So I have to add a little bit of code. Let me just get this out of full screen here. So what I'm going to do is just add an event. See if we can find it. Mouse, let's do left button up. And we'll just use Visual Studio to create a new event handler. And then, whoops, we don't need that. And then I'm just going to navigate to this event. Oh. There we go. And so what I'm going to do, I have a little bit of code I'm just going to throw in here. And what this does, there's actually, you only really need 2 lines of code here to do this, but we have a little bit of extra code. Basically what I do is I get the position and a point. I determine whether or not the control key was clicked, and that way we can kind of determine whether we should zoom in or zoom out. And then based on that, we set a zoom factor, and the zoom factor is either 0.25 or 4. And then you basically set a method, or you call a method on the multi-scale image called zoomAboutLogicalPoint. And so I'll show you what this does. So now I get the 2 images, and then if I click, it zooms in. But we still have a problem. I can't pan. This is just giving you the ability to zoom in and zoom out. Well, what you guys just saw was what Vertigo calls the hello world of Sea Dragon, or building a deep zoom image, rather. The tricky part is that we didn't have any of these tools available to us at the time, and even today, the tools that are released, this is it. This is all you can really do. You have to write all of the code to do the panning, the zooming, the animation. All of that stuff that you saw on Hard Rock was custom code written to make that happen. And to explain that, I'm going to turn it over to Will, and he's going to go into a little bit more detail on how we put this together and what we're calling Vertigo Big Picture. So with that, I'll turn it over to Will.
All right. Thanks, Mike. That's probably the last code you'll see. But I would say that I think the world will be a little bit shocked to find that you can't do anything beyond that without writing custom code. We were kind of shocked about that too. But I think it's just...
Hold on one second on this mic here. Mike. So, Will, what you don't know is I rode up in the elevator with Lutz this morning. He said there's already sample code up on the blog for the mouse stuff.
Okay.
So they did do that, which is cool.
Yes.
Right on. There.
Yes, that answers that question. But no, I think I was, they're trying to get out the technology and make it incredible. And I think just leaving it up to us to do kind of more of the simple things, actually panning and zooming, it's not that hard. Like Scott said, now there's sample code available, and you saw a taste of it with Mike's code. It's just a couple of lines of code. The tricky part you guys will probably run into when doing your own deep zoom stuff, the most trickiest part I think it will be the mouse wheel stuff, because they're still working on getting that into Silverlight 2. And you do have to dip into JavaScript to do the mouse wheel stuff. And then you run into making it work the same on cross browsers, that kind of thing. But it sounds like there will be sample code available for download, so that's great. So what I wanted to kind of talk more about is the process we used. We obviously couldn't lay out our images by hand in Deep Zoom Composer. First of all, Deep Zoom Composer wasn't available until a couple of days ago. But the way we did it is obviously data-driven. And the reason we had to do that is pretty obvious. We have Hard Rock, who's a major corporation, and they have all this approval process and what images can and can't go online. And eventually everything will be able to go online. But we're just taking baby steps. So we had to make the entire process data-driven to respond to rapid kind of changes in that process, the approval process. So I'll go back to our PowerPoint and kind of give you guys for the people that walked in late. We did do this at 2 a.m. last night, so I'm going to show it like 10 times.
We don't do every presentation at 2 a.m., just most of them.
Well, we've been busy supporting our app, which is one of the first live Silverlight 2 apps out there, so we haven't prepared as much as I think I would have liked for this presentation, so we're kind of winging it, but it's fun. We spent more time on this, I think, than practicing for sure. So this is kind of our what we're calling like the Vertigo big picture. Our process, we went to go from the content all the way to a folder on the web server which contains our collection of images, which is the Deep Zoom collection that is the memorabilia collection. So if I zoom in on this step, obviously, there's some data entry. Jeff Nolan from Hard Rock is an awesome tour guide. And Duncan from Duncan Shannon, we're busy writing content for those 258 items that are on live right now. And that went into a CMS tool, which was built using SharePoint technologies, just because we didn't want to bother with writing a bunch of forms to upload images and write text and stuff. So we used SharePoint, which worked perfectly for that. The next step of the process was getting the stuff from SharePoint into a nice normalized database for a traditional web application that we could query. And also, the other part of that process would be taking the low-res thumbnails. We didn't want to use SharePoint to store 30-megabyte images per, that'd be gigabytes. I think it's 3.5 gigabytes worth of data in SharePoint because it stores everything in a database. So we use the file system, of course. We could have used SQL 2008. We didn't want to have too many beta technologies intersecting, so we decided we'll just go with SQL 2005 and store file paths. So this process, we have this tool called the data export tool, which takes our images, our content and our thumbnail images, which are stored in SharePoint. And the end result is a bunch of file paths to the high-res images on the file server, on the web server. So that's what this little folder right here is denoting, the high-res PNGs. We had to do a little bit of fuzzy matching on the thumbnail name versus the high-res version of that thumbnail. And we would just stick them in a folder on the web server. And then, of course, all the text that Duncan and Jeff Nolan wrote would go into the database. So that's step 2. Step 3 was we had to create SDIs, which stands for Sea Dragon images. They probably want to call those DZIs pretty soon. But we have another tool we wrote called the image layout tool, which it's actually kind of a misnomer because it kept doing more and more things. But it would grab that data from the database and basically run them through the tools that we were provided to create these SDIs, which are the tile, the pyramids of each individual memorabilia picture. And another byproduct of that tool was the data.xml files. It's a file format we invented that, the info panel that slides out, that is all driven by a data.xml file that lives on the web server. So this tool would actually create these XML files, and they were kind of static files, but the content doesn't change that frequently. And we didn't want to use a web service because we were thinking performance. Let's let IIS do what it does best, serve up files. We kind of took a guess there, but it seems to work out pretty well. So this tool would generate those files. And we think this is a common scenario. Everybody's going to want to know which item is in view, right? So we're kind of lobbying for the Deep Zoom team to provide that information for us. But for now, you have to actually code that up yourselves. You have to do the logic to say which item is in view right now. So the last part of that process is the collection building. So we have a folder of SDIs, which are the pyramids, and I'm going to show you that folder in a second. And the last thing is it's just basically taking that folder and rearranging it, massaging it into a collection folder that's suitable for Silverlight. And it's really just rearranging some files and making sure everything's in the right place. And the one special part of that is there's a special file we kind of invented that tells you which ID goes to which image in the collection. And obviously the reason you need to know that is so that you can filter. As you saw in the app, we're filtering. You click a filter and it says, oh, these IDs only show these. So we had to actually name the images in the collection. And so that file tells us those names. The other thing I just wanted to again mention is the mouse support. The layout stuff. That's another interesting aspect of this. We actually wrote our own layout engine to get the nice aspect ratio, a nice rectangle. That does not come with the program. I mean, you can lay those out in a nice rectangle, but if it changes, you have a very complex insert where you have to stick the new image and then move all the other images by hand. So obviously, that's where data-driven app, it's kind of what that buys us, the flexibility for that. So we wrote our own layout. We called it the justified rect layout, which basically takes a collection of images, collection not in our traditional collection in code, and given a few constraints, we wanted to make the row heights be consistent across rows, but they could be varied between rows. We wanted the padding to be the same between items. We wanted to have variable items, so no columns. That would allow us to get closer between rows, a consistent row height. We wanted to get as close as possible, obviously. But I think from the naked eye, you can't tell that the rows are actually different heights. But they are consistent within the row. So that was a challenge, actually. Chris Itzerda on our team wrote that, and he did an amazing job with that. And that layout, it needs to be called frequently every time a filter is applied, right? So we say relayout, relayout, relayout. The other interesting aspect is all the filter animations. That's not built in, of course. Deep Zoom does give you, just inherently with collections in Deep Zoom, you can just tell it which images to display. There's basically opacity provided for you. You can say this image has opacity 0, this image has opacity 1. So actually when we're filtering, all the images that aren't in the filter go completely to, their opacity is set to 0. And then we shoot them way off screen so that they don't affect performance. So I think we send them like 10,000 pixels that way. And then I think the final part of this is I just want to leave you guys with a few tips that we had.
Wrong one.
Thank you, Scott.
In the Venetian above the bed, they have those little halogen lights. We just tacked it up there, and I think these guys went to sleep about 2 a.m. and I could have sworn it was going to fall down on Mike last night.
They kept giving me new pictures. Put this one in. So some tips for you guys as you're building your own Deep Zoom stuff, besides what I said about,
Scroll more so they can see in the back, and you can just pull back.
All right.
We need aspect. There you go.
There we go. All right, number one, we quickly realized when we first started this project that we thought we were going to build one huge image with all the sub-images. In fact, that's all we had available to us. But we quickly found that Windows has a bunch of difficulty processing images bigger than 15,000 by 15,000 pixels, which is nothing. We have 2 billion pixels. And this is why collections are so important, because now you can just process individual images, and that works nicely. So be aware of that limitation if you're trying to make one big image. It needs to be less than around 20K by 20K, actually. I think we've gotten 20K by 20K to process. And I'm sure that's going to go up very soon. Theoretically, there's a 4 billion by 4 billion pixel limit, according to Lutz, who's the PM for the Deep Zoom team. Which is awesome. That means that the technology can support 4 billion by 4 billion. We're just waiting on Windows to support it.
That's a 500-mile widescreen, right? And we calculated 4 billion by 4 billion is, it's 2 to the 64th, which is, it's like a petabyte. And it's actually 2 orders of magnitude lower than the number of stars in the universe. So you probably won't hit that limit anytime soon.
So we were really worried about performance. We still are. A nice optimization would be to crop your images in powers of 2. And if you can't crop your images in powers of 2, it's best not to go just over, because that means more tiles have to be fetched from the server for just a little bit of gain. Just that, if it's say 250 or 513 pixels wide, it'll have to get 2 tiles instead of just 1, for example. So try to stay close to powers of 2 or just under. Zipping. We're working with such huge files and such numbers of files. Our collection was 77,000 image files, tiles, and there were 3.4 gigabytes worth of data. So we recommend using 7-zip, and Mike will talk more about 7-zip in a second. And we just recommend zipping them, and don't try to copy the folders, please. It'll just sit there with Vista. Large gutters between images, try to avoid those. Small gutters. Larger gutters are more performant. Just less tiles, again, to download. Watch the size of your viewports. You're only limited in CDragon by the number of pixels that are currently being shown, not the size of the collection. So if your viewport's really huge, like full screen, that's going to download lots of tiles all the time. So that's why our viewport is a little bit small, and we're actually being really conservative. So it might get bigger pretty soon. And you wouldn't want to use 2 different multi-scale images if you could avoid it. It can support it, but it's common sense. You'd not want to have a bunch of multi-scale images all over your page. Clear your cache a lot, we found out. That's more of a Silverlight thing, but we were making changes to our code, and we'd not see the change. So I don't know if it's a Silverlight bug, but clear your cache a lot. There's another challenge we had was giving a nice install experience. If you didn't have Silverlight, we knew that 99.9% of people wouldn't have Silverlight. So there's a nice little template called the plugin not installed template on the Silverlight tag. So for people that are using the old way of doing that, it's a lot nicer now. So look for the plugin not installed template tag. And just the zap mime type. If you don't have, what is it, Service Pack 1? Service Pack 1, you'll have to actually register the zap mime type in your web server in order for people to be able to download that content, your Silverlight zaps. Those were all the kind of challenges we got through, and wanted to save you that trouble.
Cool.
That's it.
And now we're going to go from zap mime types to the design of the experience. And since this was listed as both a creative and a development conference, the designers can now wake up. By the way, did you notice the typo in that slide? There was a typo, which we can't fix. Unless we have Photoshop. I'm sorry, was it design? What number are you? There we go.
So that's the presentation mode. Hold on, let me try this again. Don't look. So yeah, I don't work at Vertigo, so how about a hand for these geniuses, right? So I'm allowed to say that. I work for Duncan Chan, and my name is Mike Lemmy. I'm a creative director there. We're a brand advertising and design firm in San Francisco. We go back a little ways with Vertigo. My role on this project was user experience and design.
He's the one responsible for our upside-down backwards logo.
Actually.
And they're having a big laugh about that.
Yeah.
I can't believe they actually bought that.
Right. We never expected them to pick it, but they did. So now they have to answer that question all the time. So yeah, I wanted to give some backstory to not just the project, the design of this interface, but sort of the backstory of Hard Rock and why they were interested in pursuing this in the first place. So we've been working with Hard Rock for about 4 years now. All the way from the beginning, there was a new CEO and a new CMO that was brought in and recognized some of the challenges of the brand and brought us in to sort of help them at first think through just really the core of the problem is the brand and what's the state of the brand and how do we sort of refresh that. And this is a slide from one of our first presentations to them. The invention of the theme restaurant was an honest mistake. So, Hard Rock isn't a theme restaurant. It didn't start as a theme restaurant. It accidentally invented the category of theme restaurants by being successful, and then sort of fell in and got lumped into the Planet Hollywoods and the Rainforest Cafes, and there's tchotchkes down there, all that stuff. So opening an American truck stop in London in 1971 really was an act of rock and roll. There wasn't rock memorabilia on the walls. It was just about doing something that was kind of flew in the face of what convention would have prescribed. So there's the first Hard Rock down in the bottom corner in London. So that's really the kind of underlining principle of what we've been up to with Hard Rock, and what Hard Rock is working on all over the world, is taking the notion of a theme restaurant and really throwing that out the door. That it's not about just layering guitars on stuff or flames and all that kind of stuff, but being true to a philosophy. So rock is a religion. So people that are into Hendrix or into Kurt Cobain, it's a deep thing if you're into whoever you're into and you really believe in it passionately. So the memorabilia collection is really significant in that sort of worship, or that ability to go into a Hard Rock anywhere around the world and sort of celebrate the thing that you're into. It's not about the objects themselves. I mean, it may be if you're a guitar gearhead, you may really get into the specifics of the guitars, but it's also a reminder of the stories and all of the sort of emotion and passion that comes along with the stories of the artists and what they were up to. So this is a Hard Rock as we know it. Having worked with him for 4 years, 120 plus properties, cafes, hotels, and casinos, a very cool and vibrant brand. But Hard Rock has a lot of work to do to sort of slough off the last 10 or 15 years of being a theme restaurant. And a lot of that does come back to the memorabilia. So here's Muhammad Ali wearing an Elvis jumpsuit. So, anybody in the world can go into a Hard Rock and see something that really gets them excited. This is the brand that Hard Rock wants to be. One of the first things we did early on, I'm just going to kind of gun through some of the backstory before the website project. We worked with them on this is an internal brand book to sort of position what is the brand all about that isn't about just guitars and flames and red and all that stuff. It's rock is authentic, rock is passionate, rock is irreverent, rock is unpredictable, rock is democratic. This is the shot we took of you guys earlier. So, taking that sort of underlying philosophy, we've gone through a bunch of projects with them. One is to refresh the identity system, which had kind of grown and gotten sort of out of control, and brought those in together, invented a Hard Rock brand mark to sort of represent the entire philosophy. We've done some ad campaigns. This is a music magazine that goes in Rolling Stone and Blender once a year. It's sort of Hard Rock's point of view on contemporary rock. So it's not just about the hair bands from the 70s and 80s anymore. This is the opening inside cover of the menu, so you can see memorabilia was there right up front. This is an inside spread, reminding people that the stuff on the walls really is real and has these great stories that come with it. This is an early idea for a memorabilia project, an icons book, and it's actually there is like a little icons magazine that's in the cafes that again celebrates these stories and gives some context to the objects. Sorry. So we had really this idea of bringing memorabilia online, years ago, and it kind of kicked into gear about a year ago in earnest. And one of the things that we talked a lot about with Hard Rock as we were going in is that Hard Rock content is really already online in really a significant way. You see some of the statistics there. This is a screenshot from Flickr. If you search Hard Rock Cafe in Lenin, these are, fans just going in there, organically and taking shots of their favorite stuff. These are 2 shots, and you can see the debate that ensues on some of these pages. The Cobain guitar, is it really his or isn't it, and all that stuff. So this talks, this is some of the vision of where we're headed. The step 1 is really where we're at there, is putting more stuff online, obviously not just putting it online in a really engaging way with Deep Zoom, but in the future adding commentary and allowing users to rate items so that sort of stuff surfaces. These are some screenshots to take you a little bit through the early process. This is before Deep Zoom or Silverlight or any of that was in the picture. It was just, what's the fundamental experience that we want to give people? These are just conceptual wireframes, just kind of very dirty, quick and dirty, looking at where you're going to have a way to browse the memorabilia. Eventually you want to be able to get into a specific object and be able to do the commenting and that kind of stuff. And then to be able to track users and allow users to create collections and do all that kind of thing, we'd have to know who users are too, so the fan page. And this was key too from the beginning, an idea of sort of that embracing that democratic notion of being able to not just go and see this stuff, but break off a piece and put it on your own site. And this is something we're working on now with these guys as well. So this is Mike at Vertigo. This is the beginning of the really dirty process. Okay, how do we do that? That's a great idea, but how do we make it happen? We went through an elaborate round of wireframing all that out, thinking that it was going to largely be HTML, and then did some visual design against that to present to Hard Rock to say, you know, we have a lot of work to do yet, but this is where we're going. This is what it's going to look and feel like, and got them excited about it. So this is the kind of high level. You see some of the visual design there, some of the wireframes, but this is a high level look at it. And we were thinking, well, it's largely HTML. There's a few opportunities here for Flash, for, you know, on the single item page there, being able to zoom in on a specific object and explore it. But largely an HTML site. And Vertigo kept saying, hey, you know, you should really look at Silverlight, look at all the different opportunities you would have with Silverlight to really integrate a rich kind of user interaction with data in a more sophisticated way than Flash can. And that was interesting enough, but it was kind of hard to bite the bullet of the plugin and all that stuff. And then Sea Dragon kind of came into the picture now, Deep Zoom, and the debate stopped.
We gave up. Like, I have to tell you, we got the bits from Lutz and Jeremy on a Monday, and I took 1,500 photos from my vacation in Europe and built a collection in just minutes, and we were blown away. And we called these guys up and said, okay, I think we have a reason to use Silverlight now. Because they've been resistant the whole time. It's like, oh, come on, we can just use Flash. Like, no, we can, if we use Silverlight, then we can program in C#. And that's about all we had. But with this, we called them up and we went over, I'll just step in light. We went over and met them, and we showed this, and I think we closed the deal in like 10 seconds. Yeah. And where's Andy? Andy said, this is effing Blade Runner. If you've seen Blade Runner, there's this scene where you just zoom all the way in. If you remember, he's looking, I know there's some, come on, there's got to be some Blade Runner fanatics. I know you are, Daryl. Yeah, there's a scene where he's going in, but there's this one spot where he kind of peers behind a pole, which we can't do yet. But other than that, it was a very similar experience. Of course, he's doing it with voice technology.
Yeah, it really is that movie interface. You know, they do the interfaces in the movies where they zoom in and you can actually see more detail than could possibly be there. It's like, now it's kind of possible. So then we did this again. Mike sat in a room with lots of Post-it notes and all the guys at Vertigo and tried to figure out, all right, how do we scrap largely all of that and rethink it? This is the first collection that we presented to Hard Rock was not a dynamic collection. It was just these set of objects when we went in and pitched, hey, you guys, we need to go with Silverlight. And so 30 objects or whatever it was, not 500 objects, and not sorting, not filtering, and they were floored too. It was like, where do we sign up? So this is the interface as it was designed and as it lives today. You can see that there's video in it, and I wanted to give you, this is something that Will talked about, like looking at layout. So there's a lot of stuff that you look at in the interface that looks easy, and it's exactly what you would think to do from a design point of view, but it's actually very hard to build it that way. So thinking about how to do layout in a sophisticated way on the left, a sort of straightforward way of just taking a bunch of objects, consistent number per row, and centering it versus getting something that actually looks clean in the interface on the right. Some of the sketches we did to try to figure out how to do that. This is sketches about how should things animate when you filter or sort things out. How do those drop away? That's all invented, and different user experience designers and different brands can do it in different ways. It's really interesting. So then you turn over your design to the developers, and this is what you get back first time. And then you go cry, and you're like...
Now, I have to say, we do have designers at Vertigo. They were just busy.
And this is what they did.
Oh, you're going to get charged.
We thought we were done.
I've been through this enough times to know that I was actually very excited about this, to see the thing interacting like, you know, this is day 1 or 2 after having the design, and the speed with which these guys could start to put it together was really very impressive. So Here's going a little bit step further, starting to build in some more of the look of it. Here's that original layout before Chris's genius layout tool was built, etc. And that's more or less contemporary. So this is one of the pieces that's coming up. These are design sketches. I'm almost done. This is the thing that we call the widget. So you'll be able to go on, find an object that you're really into, take it as an embed piece of code and throw it on your blog, throw it on MySpace or whatever, and then eventually the ability to go onto the site. Actually, this is my last slide. So widgets coming up soon, other kinds of user participation, commentary, building your own collection around whatever bizarre thing you might be into if you're in the KISS army or whatever, and then also the ability to widget that. And then there's tons of opportunities with this tool, with both Deep Zoom and Silverlight in general, to do all kinds of rich interaction things that we didn't even get to. In a way, our interface is just super simple. And so we're anxious to get to some of this other stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Good.
So we thought we'd close with some statistics before we show you the picture. Mike, why don't you bring up the site traffic map? So we launched 2 days ago. Since then, we've had 21,900 unique visitors, 45,000 page views. There's not a lot of pages, really just 1 or 2. Traffic from all over the world, literally all over the world. Look at the traffic jump from, so you can see we went from basically 0 to just boing. The most popular item, because we're tracking the pages, is asset ID number 20532, which is Madonna's 1976 high school yearbook photo. So that's being mailed around a lot on the internet. We've had over 122 countries, which is really amazing. Really gives you a sense of the reach of this conference and the power of this idea. Even my mom looked at it. She watched the broadcast, but first she wanted to know what channel is it on. Is it on channel 2 or 3? So that was a little difficult. It really is. It's great to see this happening right now. In fact, we're a little concerned about the bandwidth because while we have these on boxes hosted at Rackspace, this really would be served better by a content distribution network. So last night about 8 o'clock, I had someone put us in touch with Ken at Limelight. And Ken, where are you? Ken's way back there in the back. So in the space of about 30 minutes, Ken and I got a deal worked out. And I think in about 2 days, we're going to have all 77,000 JPEGs or the tiles on their content distribution network, which is going to be great. So the experience for the web should be even faster. And what was great is we met with these guys. Adam was the technical dude last night. And they just came to our room and looked at it like, we can do this tonight, which is great. The fact that we can take such advanced technology but take advantage of an existing infrastructure like these guys have is fantastic. So we'll be able to roll that out hopefully very soon. So they will be Limelight will be up here afterwards if you want to talk to them about that process. So I want to close with your ugly faces. I'm kidding. I love you. How do we do? Which one is this? Anybody take a guess? C. Yes. Okay. So this is where is it? Oh, Mike, bring up the 1,000. Which one was it? The G? Ooh, sound effects. This is cool. We'll leave that one on at the very end. Okay, so wow. I didn't do that.
We're doing next.
Are we done? Now we got 15 minutes. We got 12 minutes. So I brought these TIFFs into Lightroom. And the reason why I use this is because it supports the raw image format that I have from the camera here. So we brought these in, and you can see the resolution is actually pretty cool. So it's getting pretty sharp, which is nice. Somebody's badge. Looks like they were in the keynote. And so we brought those in, and then we exported as uncompressed TIFF images. So they're about 30 megabytes on the disk per image. And then I'm using a program called PT GUI. Now, Microsoft has some technology, some software that's better. I think it's HD View, which I haven't used yet. I've been using something called PT GUI, which I found it works pretty well. I simply hit load images and brought in all these tiles. And it's using the EXIF data from the camera itself. Camage. It figures out the focal length, and then you hit this button, Align Images, So I'll do this in real time for you. So it's going through and figuring out, it's finding some bald heads and some patterned colored shirts and figuring out how these things map over. And this is what it gives us. So it's actually, check this out. So there's image 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it did a great job. There was enough overlap between each image to map it. Now I could map this on a sphere, which looks kind of the same. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, that's a weird one. So there's all these different kind of projections like a Mercator projection, etc. But we'll just go with the default presentation there. And then finally, create panorama. And I'll choose some of the defaults here. I'll do this as a JPEG. I think it might be faster. Nah, that's fine. I'll do the TIFF. Room, pano, room. Create. Now, let's see if I do the maximum size. Ooh, yeah, that might take a little bit. So I'll take it down to about 8,000 pixels wide, which is fine. And then create. So this is what we did for the Bo Diddley guitar. What?
The height, 1337.
Nice. That was creepy. Yes. I didn't even practice that. What's that? If you have to ask. So it's almost done. As you can imagine, for the Bo Diddley guitar, it took a long time because that was a panoramic of 8 across and 7 down. It took about 2 hours to take that photo with Blake here because we used a little remote control clicker on the camera to trigger the shutter, so we wouldn't vibrate it. And so 8 by 7, that is 56 pictures. The other day I said it was 57 pictures, which is a prime number. And I got quite a bit of grief for that. So it's done. Let's check it out. All right, here's the big reveal. What is it, pano room? Is this it? Lutz, Tim, Chris, Jeremy. Nice. Now this guy moved.
Serato.
Daryl. Isn't this awesome? So the fact that we can put this on the web, we would just take this TIFF image or run it through the process that Mike showed earlier. Yeah, oh, what an awesome shot. Guys, I'm going to put this on our website. When we get back, this is such a cool shot, and you're all throwing the horns. That's great. He's the character. That's the Duncan and Duncan Shannon. Awesome. Look at that. Even him. He's kind of leaning. That's great. So we'll put this at vertigo.com/deepzoom. We have a little website there. So we'll close with one final thing.
2 more things to show here. So G. So to leave you guys, we have 2 more things we're going to show you real quick. One of the things that Mike talked about earlier is we put up 258 pieces. I think we're down to 257. I think there was one that was removed. So that'll be reflected shortly. Our goal is to get all 70,000 pieces of memorabilia online and more. And to give you guys an idea of how far we've gone with technology, we demoed 500 plus. This is a collection of roughly, I think, over 1,000, and we've also tried going up to around 5,000 to 6,000. And we're working with Microsoft and Lutz and Rado and the folks in the Deep Zoom or the Sea Dragon team to make sure that we can do that, and their tools support it, and we're doing it the right way. But just to give you guys a sense of the scale of things, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is only 1,000 items, and there's 70 or 69,000 more to go. The last thing I wanted to show you real quick is we've had a lot of help. First of all, I want to make sure we thank the team. There was 3 companies involved: Vertigo, Will, Daryl, Liam, who I want to make an extra emphasis to, Ralph, Rick, Alan, Chris, Kevin, Mike, Scott, and Blake. The Duncan Shannon team, which is Lemmy, Andy, Duncan, Chris, and Kristen. And the Hard Rock International team, Sean, who is the CMO who came on stage, Ken and Patrick, who run their online group, and Jeff Nolan, who is the master of rock, in my opinion. He knows everything. And then finally, we want to give a special thanks to Microsoft. There's lots of people. We had lots of support, but in particular, Lutz and Rado from the Sea Dragon team. Jeremy was from the evangelism team. Vijay and Ashish from the Silverlight team, and Lawrence and Mike Swanson. They were all very helpful in this process. We want to give them a round of applause for all their support.
And we want to thank you guys for showing up at 8:30 in the morning. I don't know about you, but I'm I'm ready for a drink. Thanks, everyone. We'll be around for questions. Appreciate you coming in.